Picking up from where we left off yesterday, uh, subordinating conjunctions and right sample sentences for each. What we had to continue from was, I believe, condition. Right. So we've done time and manner. Then we have reason, I believe, yes. Concession, so that's 4. And then we skipped condition and went to place. Right, so let's go back a bit and do condition. So the first one we have is if. If you think you can do any better, comma, have a go at it. Right, so there's obviously a condition. You can have a go at it only if you think you can do any better. And mentioning only if, that's the second one in the conditions. Only if. Right, so only if puts a bit more stress on the condition as compared to saying if. He'll be a candidate for player of the year only if he manages to score 2 centuries in this series. Right, so we're talking about centuries, so probably cricket. Then we have unless. Unless there is concrete proof against the accused, a sentence cannot be passed. And we are talking about a criminal sentence, obviously not English sentences. Then there's provided that. So we have Jamil. Jamil's new job doesn't have a strict schedule, oh, no comma, provided that he meets his deadlines. So I'm hoping that the meaning of condition is becoming clear with each one of these. We still have 5 more to go in this. So next is assuming that provided that unless, so where did it go? Assuming that the law and order situation would worsen, I stocked up on supplies. Then you have even if it's too late to make things right, even if they confess to their part in this ordeal. Then we have in case that. So in case that you need further assistance, don't hesitate to call customer support. List. Now list is old fashioned, right? It means to avoid the risk of, right? So it's a bit old fashioned. I don't know if it's categorized as an archaic word. In fact, let me check. That's a word. Oxford Dictionary. Oh, okay. Words of the day. List. So it is formal or literary. So it's not something that you use in everyday you, like everyday writing, right? It's more of a literary thing. So when you're writing literature of some sort, right, that's where you normally find it. It's not just stories, right? The uh, TV series and movies and books and even the dialogues of video games, right? If you've ever noticed, if you ever played video games and noticed the dialogues of the characters, they tend to be very good, tend to be, not always, right? And they're very literary at times. So this is one of those. And the example for this is we deleted the messages lest someone should read them. Right, so if you input that we deleted messages to avoid the risk of someone reading them. For condition, the last one we have is once. Oh, by the way, right, I have a sentence in which I made list. I've started with list, but that doesn't normally happen, right? So sentences don't normally begin with less. So for this, if you ever decide to use this particular conjunction, then right, don't start with it, right? You can always bring the uh, subordinate clause later. Just keep that in mind for this particular one. In fact, I'll write it down so it's on record. Right. Sentences do not normally begin with list. And finally, for condition, we have once. Definitely something that we've heard our parents, especially our mothers, say to us. Once the guests arrive, I expect you to be on your best behavior. Right. So hopefully all that is clear. If it isn't, right, feel free to ask. Uh, Next up, we have comparison. And starting off with than. Right now, this one definitely does not, right? So for list, sentences do not normally begin with list. For than, they just don't begin with list. That's why we're with than, right? You don't have a sentence starting with than at all, right? So there's only one way to go with this. the orange dress suits you better than the green one, right? And sentences do not begin with than. Next, you have rather than, which similar to only if, puts a bit more emphasis on that. Right, another sentence that we fail to, even though we realize what we're doing, we just fail to follow through in it. So rather than rushing at the 11th hour, you should start early and make steady progress. Right, and we're definitely not doing that, are we? As much as. Right now, this one, right, the sentence that I have, I'm going to give you like a compound complex sentence for this one. Your father doesn't look like it, but he's excited about this as much as you are. Right, now you can see over here we have a coordinating conjunction as well. So this is something called a compound complex sentence, because you've got both of them coming in. And this is actually the next level of sentence structure after complex sentences. So you've got simple, you've got compound, you've got complex, and then you've got compound complex, where you are really, using everything that you know and mixing it up. And this is something that you will come across in, you know, proper writings. You will come across sentences that are using both coordinating and subordinating conjunctions, thereby having both compound and, features of both compound and complex sentences in their structure, right? And as you progress in your writing, you should try these out. I'll give you another one for this, right, which is straightforward. Let's just say uh, a hypothetical situation: as much as I'd like to offer you a a full pardon, I am obligated to uphold the law. Right, so it's a nice thing to say. Then we have whereas. So taking commerce in college will limit your options, no comma, whereas science will open many opportunities. And then we have weather, right? Just keep the spelling in mind. This is not the weather that has anything to do with clouds and rain. So whether you look at this as an obstacle or an opportunity, it's really a matter of perspective. Hmm. All right, we're almost done with this, right? Just two more to go. No, wait. Have we already done purpose? No, we haven't done purpose, right? So yeah, two more to go. So purpose, and we are starting off with so that. I told you yesterday that we'll be coming across so that again. What we saw yesterday was the one in reason. So let's just backtrack a bit. Here we are, right? So that our schedule remains flexible, we'll be traveling by bus and train, right? And so that is giving reason for traveling by bus and train. Over here, it's purpose, which is kind of similar to reason anyway, right? But let's see. They reviewed the basic concepts so that they wouldn't have to struggle during the advanced lectures. Right, so there is a difference between reason and purpose. If I can articulate that, let's see. Right, so reason is telling you why something happens or why you're doing something, so the motive or the justification behind a situation or an action. Whereas purpose is the broader goal, right? Not the, the intention of why you're doing so. It is, again, like, it's close, it's linked, but right, there is like a nuance of difference, right? So reason is an explanation, whereas purpose is an objective. So let me just write that down over here. Just to have that clear down. So it's not exactly the same. And finally, for the very last, we have in order that. So in order that all the students understood, the teacher went over the instructions twice. And being a teacher, I can guarantee that none of the students paid attention. They'd be bombarding questions when work begins. Okay, so that is the end of subordinate conjunctions, the list that I provided. Again, right, what I have offered is not an exhaustive list by any means. There are many more if you go out looking for them, and you would come across them in your own readings, and you can put them to use. These are a number of the commonly used ones, right? The more popular ones. Now, with that done, our next topic is punctuations. Right? On any other day, I may have given you an early leave from class, but I want to cover some ground as far as the grammar review at least is concerned before taking winter break, which I believe would start from, yeah. So we'll only have classes next week, two more classes to go after this one. So punctuation marks, obviously, right? So there are a number of them which I list. And what they do is they add structure and clarity to writing, and they guide readers with regards to where to pause, the tone, the meaning. And so here's a list of punctuations. Do I have a summary of any sort? Ah. So first off is the capitalization, followed by the full stop. Then you have the question mark, the exclamation mark, the comma. And students nowadays really mix up the full stop and the comma. They tend to use commas everywhere, right? Even where there should be full stops. I don't get why, but that does happen. Then you have the quotation marks. You have the dashes. And you've got the colon and semicolon. Right, so these are, excuse me, these are punctuations that, you know, you can put all of these to use. There's not one that you wouldn't be needing. What do they look like? I'm sure you're familiar with most of them. So can't really, I mean, you got the capitalization, so any capital letter, right? Then you got the full stop, which, right, is that question mark, exclamation mark, comma. Quotation marks can be single or double. Then you've got dashes, which are of three types. You've got, right, the M dash, the N dash, and the hyphen. So we'll just put that, the colon, and the semicolon. And the more of these you use, the more variety you can have, right? And as we'll see, perhaps for some of these, you can choose, just like, the conjunctions we talked about doing conjunctions, you can choose which punctuation you want. You can sort of change your sentence to suit one type of punctuation over the other. And it really depends on why would you do that, what effect you want to achieve, right? And what kind of effect do you want to convey to the reader, right? So some punctuation marks are subtle, others are more, apparent. They are more visible, they're more striking. So starting off with capitalization, and even though this is really basic, students, either forget or are inattentive, and they're starting off sentences with lowercase letters or not capitalizing proper nouns. And I just told you where they're used. So first thing is that, right, you begin a sentence with a capital letter. Let's change colors. So they're used at the beginning of a sentence, and you can, you know, use. I mean, you could write any sentence. For example, we went to Kashmir. Yes, Kashmir last summer. Right, so what we're focusing is over here. Obviously, you can see the capital letter over here as well. And so, right, you capitalize proper nouns. Right, so proper nouns are specific names of people and, you know, things perhaps. Uh, right, so specific. These are specific names. They could be specific names of people, things, public holidays, books, events, right? The days of the week, or you know, the months of the year, places, obviously, right? Like Kashmir is a place, so it's a specific name of a place. So, can you speak Japanese? And so the focus, so is the beginning of the sentence, and this is the, you know, name of a language, right? And so I've capitalized that. Another thing is, right, so you can have titles of books and magazines and other things if they're like, you know, the book uh, Great Expectations. That's one of the ones commonly taught at schools. So because it is the title of a specific book, it would be written with capital letter, like not the whole thing, the first letter being capital for each word, right? So Great Expectations, right? By, and then the author's name is obviously proper noun as well, Charles Dickens, right? Then you have capitalizations for titles and abbreviations. So an example is, right, you have Mr. Amjad, or you have Dr. Salim, right, or something. And then you've got abbreviations such as, uh, you know, Nadra, which is the national something database or something. I forget what it is, right? So let me look that up. Let me look up what NADRA stands for. I'm forgetting. Right, so that stands for the National Database and Registration Authority. Right, so that's National Database and Registration Authority. Right. Okay. And then I just do question mark and exclamation mark, and then we can end class. In fact, I'll end it here. So we can continue the next time. I don't think it's going to make a big difference. There wasn't much to talk about. Uh, I'll stop here for the day. And are there any questions? Yes, no, maybe. Right. So far, so good. All clear. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. So that's the end of class for today, and yeah, we'll continue this the next time. All right.